Hey, this is going over my automated fume extraction system for soldering and resin printing in my basement. It is a DIY fume hood connected to a inline booster fan that also has a diversion over to a node for my mobile soldering station. The fume hood is self-built, as you might see. Don't worry about it being open like this. As long as there is less pressure inside versus outside, then there's no danger of the fumes getting out. This kind of fume extraction is necessary for resin printing, especially with ABS-like resins, because they're very stinky and toxic if you're in an enclosed space. And I wanted to be in my basement. This is a climate-controlled area with a smart switch on a heater fan and a climate sensor inside the enclosure there, so I can maintain the perfect temperature for resin printing. There's contact switches on the blast gates for both the resin printer and the soldering station. So when the resin printer blast gate is opened, it sets the speed to 10%. If the resin printer is running, that increases to 30% instead, and will automatically drop back down to 10% when the resin printer finishes. If the blast gate for the resin printer is open and I open up the fume hood, it automatically changes to 100% speed. So that with this connecting on the bottom with magnets, I can operate the resin printer without having to wear a respirator, since there's enough airflow pulling the air away from me to not have to wear one. And it automatically switches off again, or switches back down to the proper state when the fume hood is closed again. Going over here to the soldering station, I have this mobile soldering station that I made that runs off of M18 tool batteries. And using it outside of this space, or outside in general, it's fine. But in this enclosed space, I need fume extraction. So having this additional way of getting the fumes out is lovely, especially on this gooseneck, so I can put it wherever I want. When I open up this blast gate, a little bit more difficult to do with just one hand. If I open up this one, it always sets it to 100%. Let me close this again. And this just flips up out of the way whenever I'm not using it. This little controller outputs a 10-volt PWM signal instead of a 5-volt PWM signal. And I also don't know what pins it uses to transmit that PWM signal, and I don't have an oscilloscope to check. So until I get an oscilloscope so that I can properly use an NPN transistor to up the voltage from a ESP32 5-volt PWM output to the 10-volt to drive this, I am just using a relay to toggle this button remotely. So yeah, it will be output properly with a PWM signal in the future, but for now, I have just a remote push button for it. Because it has to wrap around, because this is just one button, when I close the blast gate here, it turns it off, but to do that, it needs to cycle all the way through past 100% to get to 0. So yeah, that's what I got. Hope you enjoy.